Good Sunday morning. A tragedy at the border with an investigation spanning multiple state lines. The discovery, 6 dead at a Laredo rail yard as investigators trace that investigation through the southern border over several days. It comes as Laredo finds itself in the continuing debate over border security, enforcement, and policy.
We are demanding justice for these lives lost. It doesn't matter where they came from. Those responsible for trafficking and placing human beings in such dangerous and inhumane conditions must be held accountable.
A tragedy investigators say started in California and ended in Laredo. A multi-agency press conference this week at Laredo Police Headquarters sheds more light on the deadly case after 6 migrants were found dead at a Laredo rail yard Sunday. Investigators outlined a timeline saying the train left Long Beach, California, and that the group is believed to have boarded in Del Rio before they were discovered in Laredo. Officials say preliminary medical reports point to extreme heat as the likely cause of death and that the migrants did not die in Laredo. The case quickly drew national attention as investigators say they're now seeking justice. Meanwhile, border issues continue to take center stage at Laredo City Council in recent weeks, including discussions tied to border wall efforts. City leaders have taken up several agenda items, including the right of entry agreements that would allow CBP to survey 15 miles of city-owned land. Council members also approved an independent study to examine how a potential border wall could impact the area's water supply, public safety, and local infrastructure. But not everybody is on board. Several Laredo residents showed up to protest those agenda items, with many expressing concern over federal access to city-owned land. Now, also in recent weeks, the city released new design recommendations and renderings for federal security plans along Laredo's riverfront. City leaders say the goal is to balance city security while protecting commerce and trade and the area's appearance. And buoys also made their way to Laredo. CBP confirmed floating barriers were installed north of the Columbia Solidarity Bridge, while city leaders raised concerns that the project could impact Laredo's only water source. As for the right of entry agreement, city manager Joseph Nebb said it only allows survey work and does not permit construction, land clearing, or site preparation. And amid ongoing developments at the border of note, hundreds of Border Patrol agents have been deployed to the Laredo sector. The agency says the region's river border, without natural barriers to slow crossings, makes it a key target as smuggling routes continue to shift. And that is where we're going to begin this morning's discussion. Joining us to talk about the latest developments along the border are Hector Garza with the National Border Patrol Council and former City of Laredo Mayor Pete Saenz. They're joined, of course, by KGNS General Manager Luis Villarreal. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. A lot to unpack there. I mean, that was a very long intro, but just because so much has happened over the last few weeks. And Hector, I know you've been at the national forefront. You just came back from Washington, so we really appreciate your insight into this. Mayor, also the city taking a very different approach this time than past times. So let's go ahead and start with you, Mayor. Let's talk about what you think about the approach this time around.
Yeah, some context to this. When I was mayor, there was an issue as to whether the proper funds had been appropriated for the wall. So some landowners did file a lawsuit. I think even the city of Laredo got involved in the lawsuit there for a while. But we soon realized that by delaying, they threatened condemnation like they're doing now. I mean, that's the cart that they've got that will ultimately prevail, to be honest with you. When I was mayor too, I would check with the valley people in other areas where the wall had been installed, and they would say, Mayor, you just have to work with them. But now, obviously, and I think Hector can shed some more light as to this, all the monies have been appropriated through that big, beautiful bill, as we know, so there's no issue as to that. But going back to when I was mayor, we delayed, they threatened, and I think Trump, through the courts and all of that, was able to free himself, I guess, from that and actually move forward with the wall. If Trump, had not been, if Biden had not been elected, Trump would have installed the wall by now. I'm certain, because everything was in place, the easement, the materials, the contracts, and obviously we had an uproar here in Laredo, as we all know. We were all involved, and and it came down to a referendum. Vote for Biden if you don't want the wall, and vote for Trump if you do want the wall. But of course, Biden did win, and the wall contracts were canceled, and then 4 years of open border situation as we've experienced. So it's very different now. Now I think, and again, I think people, the constituency has realized, I think there's more support now for a wall than there was way back then. Way back then was really no support for a wall. And Laredo's position has always been no physical wall. My position was, again, going with the city, no physical wall, but if it comes to that, give us an aesthetically pleasing wall. And this is what and the Trump administration was willing to do that, and I think they're following with this riverfront or river walk, and that was really gratifying. To be honest with you, if we're going to have a wall, have it,
at least look pretty.
At least, yeah, and for it to attract people to the river frontage.
Right. Hector, as I mentioned, you just came back from Washington. You were there for Police Week. Tell us a little bit about what the climate is. What do you hear? And you've got a new leader coming about. What's the sentiment on behalf of the groups that you represent?
Yeah. So first of all, President Trump remains committed to securing the border and making sure that we have a secured border for many, many years to come. One of the main priorities that this administration has, and some of the Republicans in Congress have expressed, that they want to make sure that border security not only lasts through the Trump administration, but that it continues into any other administration that might come into power in the United States. That means that we have to install permanent wall. We have to start looking into the buoys. There's even been talks about giving some of these water barriers to the state of Texas so that the state of Texas can own them. That way, if there's a change in administration, they won't remove them in case that happens. But everybody in D.C. and in Congress is still prioritizing border security. Is very, very important. For us as agents, it's also as important because we see that what happens on the border every single day. And going back to the mayor's point, I think the community has become more educated and informed on border security issues. I think through the Biden administration years, we saw that many of these migrants were actually victimized by the human smugglers. For example, we saw what happened with those 53 migrants that died in the back of a truck. We just saw these 6 migrants that died inside a Connex trailer. So I think people are more informed about the issues, and they're beginning to realize that border security is something very, very, very significant to us in our community. We see the pursuits on a regular basis. We're seeing the destruction and the human misery that causes. So I think people are more supportive of border wall now, or supportive of border security efforts that we're taking along the border.
We had been reporting about the numbers being low. But then we see cases like this. So are they crossing over, or are they doing it just in more extreme measures, like locking themselves in or having the smugglers lock them in shipping containers, because maybe there are so many boots on the ground right now and more had just been deployed. So maybe now the human factor is becoming more dangerous.
Yeah, so from a national perspective, we have the most secure border we've ever had. We've had the lowest crossings ever in history. But I think it's important to realize what is happening in Laredo, in the Laredo sector. Laredo sector is a very unique sector in that Mexico, and on the Mexican side, we have a very dangerous cartel that controls human and drug smuggling. So that has never changed in our area. So for example, in Laredo, we did not really see a lot of those asylum seekers, those families that were coming across the border. What we saw in Laredo during the Biden years was the typical adult male crossing illegally, people that were hiding, people that were running, and people that had criminal records. These people did not want to get arrested, as opposed to other areas in the border where they were simply giving up. That type of traffic in the Laredo sector continues to this day. The people that cross in this area, they have not stopped. They're still fighting, they're still running, they're still hiding. And that's what's very unique to Laredo. Because if you really think about all the resources that we've sent to the Laredo sector, we've sent soldiers, we've sent OFO officers, additional agents, additional resources. And guess what? They're still coming across. We're still getting pursuits on a regular basis. What does that mean? Is that we need a more permanent solution to border security in Laredo, and that comes in the manner of a border barrier. And as much as people don't like it, and I wouldn't want to see a big wall on this river, But if we truly want border security, unfortunately, it is going to take this type of solution to ensure that we have border security for many, many years. That will in turn save migrants' lives, and that will save lives in the United States as well.
Wow. You know, the crossing that happened with the 6 deaths came through train. A border wall wouldn't stop that. Are you still seeing crossings through the river? That's the border wall right there. What about crossings on trains?
So let's make something very clear, Mindy. The train that is used for smuggling purposes, these people do not come from the Mexican side riding inside a train into the United States. Union Pacific, Kansas City Southern, they have great technology to detect any type of abnormalities in their cargo. What happens in the Laredo sector is that people cross the border illegally.
Then jump on a train.
They'll go to a stash house, then jump on a train or in the back of a tractor trailer, and then they head up north into the United States.
So they're already in the United States. Their purpose of jumping on a train is to go into the interior of the United States.
That is to bypass the Border Patrol checkpoints. Now, something that people might not know is that we have a history in the Laredo sector of apprehending hundreds and hundreds of migrants inside these trains. We have checkpoint stations on trains that we check in the Heronville area, and we also have them in the Cotula station. We also have areas like Port Serrano in South Laredo and Port Laredo, which is in North Laredo. So the Border Patrol plays a very active role in train inspections, but it's not because they're coming inside trains from Mexico. What they do is that they cross between ports of entry through the river, and then they jump on the trains, and that's how they end up on trains. And some of them get apprehended, some of them don't.
Wow, interesting. Well, thank you for that insight. We're going to continue with this conversation, but when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about a recent hearing that took place in Washington, specifically talking about drug cartels. Stick around. Welcome back, everyone. We're continuing the conversation. This past week on Capitol Hill, a House hearing with the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth before the House Appropriations Committee on the growing threats cartels are posing here along the border, questioned by Congressman Henry Cuellar.
I want to draw your attention to one particular threat, that is the accelerating demands. The cartels are not only watching what's happening in Ukraine, but they're learning from it, and we're hearing from credible reports about cartels looking at fiber optic drone systems.
We're going to continue our conversation with our panelists, former mayor and political contributor Pete Saenz, and of course Hector Garza with the Border Patrol Union. Gentlemen, thanks for sticking around. This just happened this past weekend. You alluded to this just a little bit ago before we took a break, Hector, about the cartels being so dangerous across our border. Talk a little bit about that, and are they becoming more intelligent by learning from us?
So I think the threat that we face on the U.S. side all depends on the threat that exists on the Mexican side. We've known for many, many years that there are different cartel operators that operate on the Mexican side. We know that some of them try to dedicate themselves to human smuggling only, others try to dedicate only to drug trafficking. So it all depends. And what happens here in the Laredo area is that we do have a very dangerous cartel on the Nuevo Laredo side. We also know that the Mexican government, law enforcement in this case, does not have a good hold on the cartel activities in Nuevo Laredo. That means that essentially some of these cartels control big portions of the Mexican city. And when that happens, that means that we have a more dangerous adversary that we have to deal with.
So how do we target that? I mean, Congressman Cuellar was asking the secretary, what resources are you putting forth? You know, how are you going to handle this situation? What do you all want to see on behalf of Border Patrol?
Yeah, so I know that Congressman Cuellar brought up the concern about drones, right, and fiber optic drones. So drones have always been a threat, but I'm a drone operator for the U.S. Border Patrol, and something that we always have to keep in mind is that there are legal drones that are flying out there. The community does own drones. There's recreational flyers. There's business operators that fly drones, but then there's also a segment of flyers that are conducting that for criminal purposes. Sure. We do have technology that will help us detect drones from the Mexican side that might come across. The problem is that some of these drones, that if they do not cross the border, then that is kind of useless, right? Unless if the Mexican army or the Mexican military can help us with those drones. I think for us here in Laredo, I think it's important that we continue to develop some of these technology that the military is using. We know that for a while there, they sent a specialized unit to the Laredo sector to be able to detect drones and be able to bring them down. And then those specialized groups move to other parts of the border. I think as the years continue, I think we're going to have to be a little bit more dependent on the military technology to be able to take on the threat of drones along the border.
Wow. And do you see the support coming from Washington to be able to work towards these efforts?
I think as long as we continue to have a presidential administration that prioritizes border security and the safety of Americans, we'll always have the support from the Department of War. I think part of the concern would be is that if we have an administration that does not support border security, that they begin to ignore border security, that's when the problems start, and we saw that under the Biden administration.
Hector, I want to ask you, obviously not unrelated, but not on our geographical topic, but what is being done in the interior of the United States to the employers, to the people that are still welcoming with open arms? Is anything happening with that other than, I know that we're rounding up people and we're doing that stuff, but if I'm the business owner, or if I'm the warehouse operator, or whatever it is, and I'm the one doing that, what are the consequences for such a thing?
So ICE and HSI is responsible for enforcement and conducting these types of employee inspections. We did see some inspections at different meat packing companies and chicken packing companies in the United States, but it all depends again on the administration, right? If the administration wants to target these employers, they will face some hefty fines. We know that there's been some criminal cases of some of these employers abusing of their illegal migrant employees by paying them less, by not giving the proper wages. So we have seen several cases, but I personally would like to see more of that, so that way we discourage illegal immigration, because people will come into this country if there is a magnet.
As long as there's an opportunity, right?
Correct.
But don't we have e-verify laws? But like Hector was
Yes,
saying,
Mayor, but what happens, when you break those laws, I think the systems are in place.
Enforcement, I guess.
Right, and then the other question that I have is, okay, so the wall, the buoys, and all that. What percent, if there's any intelligence on this, comes from people that actually cross illegally through the port?
Yeah. So. Whenever people do cross to the border illegally through the port, it'll be usually a case of fraud documents. For example, they present fake birth certificates, fake passports, fake visas. I don't know the exact percentage, right? Because that would be.
Is it a big part?
No, it's not. If you would ask me, I think we see maybe about a 10 to like 20% of crossings through the port of entry that might be fraud documents. But what most people do when it comes to fraud documents, for example, you have to understand that when you go through the port of entry, when you go through the river, you are going to be scrutinized, and because they have a lot of technology, they have a lot of databases.
I get scrutinized sometimes.
They have a lot of, they have you and I, myself, right? They have a lot of technology, they have a lot of time, and the port of entry, the port director controls the flow of traffic. So every single vehicle will be inspected, and it doesn't matter how long somebody waits in line. Everybody will be inspected. So for example, if you start with 10 lanes, for example, and they apprehend a drug smuggling case and they shut down 2 lanes, guess what? Now there's 8 lanes, and everybody that's in line is going to have to wait. That is different when you talk about between ports of entry, because between ports of entry, it's pretty much uncontrolled.
Correct.
The cartels have controlled between ports of entry. Now with additional manpower and resources, we're taking back that control. When you install barriers, when you install walls, that changes, that gives us the upper hand. But ports of entry, they have the highest technology. It's a secure facility, so these smugglers know that it's difficult to get through the port of entry.
Well, interesting. Mayor, I want to go back to the conversation that we were having on the city support. Is what they're doing right now all for nothing because of what you said, the eminent domain? That is the ultimate.
Personally speaking, yeah, I applaud the efforts of the mayor and of course city council as well. They're doing the best they can with the circumstances that they're faced with, and that's basically all you can do. I think being at the table is a huge plus.
There have been some wins, I guess, if you want to call it that, on behalf of the city, and some things that have been, I guess, approved or agreed on to by the federal government.
Perhaps.
Renderings and things that look, okay, yeah, we hear you. And it seems like there's been some positive movement in that direction. Is that accurate?
Keep in mind the roles that we all play. The mayor plays a certain role. Of course, certain constituents want to play a different role. That's fine too. But as a mayor, I think it's more of a holistic, you're there for the entire city. The fact that they're asking for more studies, hydrologic and hydraulic and so on.
But those studies cost money too. I mean, the last one I think was $500,000 or something like that. Do you even think, if eminent domain is the ultimate, then is it all for nothing?
No,
and the money, is it all for nothing?
Thinking as a lawyer, not that I'm giving a legal opinion here, but it's good to do that, because if there's a risk, and we put them on notice saying, look, our studies show differently, and there's a danger there, there's a threat there to flooding or homes or whatever, at least they're apprised, and the question is going to be, you knew this, but yet, you went with a different design. We were asking for a stronger design or whatever the case may be. And then the question of damages at the end. So it's at
kind
the
of
end.
Documenting it.
Yeah, so you're documenting and basically saying, you were notified, you were told, it happened, now pay up. Or, But then again, I don't know what the federal government has, immunity or not.
True.
So, but at least you enter into a different phase.
Because the latest response from the government to the study that the city did was they didn't agree. They didn't agree with the study. So, they're going to move forward
but
anyway.
Ultimately, the federal government has the last word. To be honest with you, I mean, we don't have too many cards to play. If I may use some of the Trump terms that he uses, and that's reality. So you work the best you can. And I've always said too, as a mayor, the role that mayors or other officials, public officials, you work with the administration, the party that's in power, because if you don't, they'll cut you off. They'll literally cut you off. So you do the best you can with what you have. And
no more soup for you, 1 year.
Yeah. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. And this is a very different approach than what it's been in the past. And you're right, with a better approach, a more amenable approach, hopefully we can get something a little bit more attractive, like you said, and a little bit more conscientious of the environment that we live in.
No, and I think the federal government, to be honest with you, I think when I was there, they do listen, they want to help to the point that they can, but ultimately they've got the last word, and that's the truth of it.
Yeah. Hector, what are the timelines that you hear? You're up there, you've got your ear. As far as actual construction?
Well, the president has prioritized the construction of the border wall, and he's been very tough on some of these leaders and the political appointees. I don't have the specific timeline, but it's been prioritized. The plan is to not have a repeat of his first term, where some of these communities ran out the clock. Going back to the conversation with Mr. Sines, the city unfortunately did run out the clock, and part of the strategy was to delay.
And that was part of the strategy.
And if you look at that, they were successful in some of these efforts of delaying, for example, the river road that we were going to get. Funding ran out, so we were not able to build that much needed river road along the border that was going to be helping local law enforcement, first responders, border patrol agents. So the federal government does not forget. They still remember of the city's strategy of delaying. I can almost assure you that the federal government is trying everything to make sure that the city does not delay all over again. And unfortunately, because of that delay strategy, I think the federal government now sees the city of Laredo as a partner that is not acting in good faith.
Okie doke. Yeah. Well, we appreciate your insight, Hector. Thank you so much for stopping by, and Mayor as well. We always appreciate having you with us. We're going to take a quick break, but stick around. We've got a second half hour coming up where we're going to talk about the recent County Judge Forum. Stay with us. Welcome back, everyone. Well, in just a few minutes, we're going to continue our discussion this morning with two new panelists on the recent County Judge Forum. But you can catch that on our streaming platforms, our website, KGNS.TV, our Roku app, KGNS, and on our KGNS YouTube channel. But before we switch on over, we want to thank our very good friend Hector Garza and former mayor, of course, Pete Saenz. He's our political contributor, for coming in this morning for our ongoing conversation on border security. So with that, we'll see you on the streaming side in just a couple of minutes. Stick around. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Well, if you're joining us on our streaming platforms, we really appreciate you tuning in to this special streaming edition of Beyond the Headlines. Well, don't call it a forum, call it one of the final chances to win over voters. And in one of the last opportunities available, both candidates for county judge tried to make their case stand out.
Tonight's forum is not about politics. It's about the survival and the future and direction of Webb County.
My campaign has been very simple, and its core values have been very simple. And it's things that we all share: our family, our finances, and our future.
Well, the last two candidates standing in the race to be your next county judge made one of their last pitches to voters, outlining competing visions for the county's future. Key topics included plans for economic development, proposed solutions to better serve underserved communities, and each candidate's top priorities if elected, among many others. Both candidates were also not afraid to hold back, taking shots at each other's experience, their history, and background as they made their case to voters ahead of Election Day. Also, we turn to you to ask what you thought of the forum, what each candidate had to say, and what your takeaways were. More than 100 comments came in, with many responding in a wide variety of ways. Parts of our viewing audience were more receptive to CY, citing a genuine passion to serve, ability to lobby for state and federal dollars, and drawing a contrast to his opponent, while others thought Jerry was the clear winner, saying he would work better with others compared to his opponent, and described that difference as an important factor for future progress. Yet there were others who were not fond of either choice. There were several comments like this one where they felt that nothing changes regardless of whoever holds office, saying the limited quality of options is a key reason progress stays stalled. Well, that's where we're going to begin this part of the discussion. Joining us for our KGNS political contributors, we've got Jean Belmares and George Altgeld, and KGNS manager Luis Villarreal, of course, sticking around with us. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for coming in this morning and talking about the public forum. First of all, both of y'all, all three of y'all, saw the public forum.
We did?
Yes.
Okay, so, you know, I think what surprised me the most was how quickly it turned combative from the get-go. Was that expected?
I would say yes. I think that they have been trading in the social media platforms prior to this. I know that there's a PAC out there that has a very robust campaign against CY, and so you could see that was going to happen. That coming in, it's like a opening round of the boxing match where they just come out flailing at each other and then they settle into their routines. Yeah, I saw it coming a mile away.
They had to. I mean, I think it had some. They had to start drawing blood early on to at least to try to, get people to pay attention and to be able to get a soundbite so that they could, recycle it and put it out there for purposes of their, their social media feeds. I mean, that is the nature of the business. What was, I thought, really missing was a lot of substance, and both of them spoke in generalities. One of the things that Gene and I were visiting on, because we both sat on council, I was on the MPO, he's been involved in transportation related to Loop 20 specifically, and both of us agreed neither one of us would ever take credit for any overpass or widening or anything as it relates to Loop 20. We were there cheerleading and rah-rahing, but we weren't the ones, breaking ground and right. Paying for it.
That's right. We formulated policy. We made the environment conducive for it. Ultimately, lobbying for it, those kind of things. But ultimately, we weren't the ones that were building those overpasses.
And there was a lot of talking about the things that they talked about. Like it wasn't like they. And Gene, I wrote it down. I quoted him. It was a lot of salt and pepper and no steak, right? Like none of them And I know CY wants to take credit for the toll road, which was a failure by every metric. I mean, the road it
was a failure as a business
as
venture.
a business venture,
Right.
as a business venture.
But
Unless, of course,
one could argue
own
that-
the company that
Yeah,
built
they
it.
built
Well, then
it.
you made out
Correct.
really good. But
Right, and also in the end, for the benefit of the community, it ended up working out for
it ended up for
us.
sale in a bankruptcy sale, I believe, and the
Right.
state of Texas bought it.
and we were the benefactor, and our community was the benefactor of a beneficiary of getting the road.
But it's not a feather that you would put in your hat as the visionary.
Right, that was
for-
not the vision originally.
And we were both commenting about how the the debate didn't drill down on that. Like there was a lot of softballs. There was no why would you want to build a dump in the middle of a creek upstream from and upwind from Laredo, a regional dump? And those questions got passed over. I think Jerry didn't get really any hardballs thrown at him either.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, looking at secondary water, for example, there was no real hard questions. Or, hey, you've had some time. Why not have secondary water already in place? Yeah, why would you want to build a toxic dump here in this particular area? Drill down on that question. Why even propose it to begin with? As a business model, I get it. You want to make money, but why here? Why there? The environmental questions weren't asked.
you both referenced that you both serve in the council, city councilman, right?
Yep.
And is it fair to paint Jerry in the light of, well, you were there for 8 years and we're still in the same place we were? I mean, is that a fair characterization of what have you done? I mean, you've already done this. You've been in commissioner's court. We're still talking about the same problems we were back in the day. Is it fair to put it on him? Could he have done something better when he was commissioner to say, hey, no, I did this, and that? I mean, I don't know.
I have my position on that. I mean, he's been out of county government now going on 12, 14 years. Maybe he should have stayed. Maybe things would have gotten done if Jerry had stayed longer to fix those. He's in there for 8 years. George was in there a short period of time. Maybe his district would be better had he stayed longer.
Right. Why didn't you?
Well, in my case, I was termed out. George?
Why
Oh,
didn't you
I
stay?
paid my debt to society.
You weren't in the program,
I've
man.
atoned. My sentence was complete, and I am now a recovering elected official.
Gotcha.
I've been
Fair
sober
enough.
for about 6 years. Yeah. So I thought a highlight for me in the debate was when CY tells Jerry he's had 2 or 3 jobs in the last 5 years or whatever, and I was thinking, well, at least he had a job. That's right. So I think it's a fair critique. It's a fair critique to say, hey, you were there. What was done? Well, it's an attack on the individual's record, and so I think what he's really trying to say is, hey, you're the establishment candidate, and I'm this outsider that's going to come and shake things up. And shake up is okay if it's measured and it's intelligent and it's planned.
Yeah, ask the city of San Antonio right now, with what's going on with the shakeup.
Yeah, exactly. Or just go look at Washington D.C. The shakeup, it's there, and there are consequences for erratic behavior and untrained, unqualified people in key positions, and we're seeing the fallout of D.C.'s moves, the country's moves here locally. With the tariffs and the decrease in bridge crossings and decrease in trade with Mexico, like we're feeling increased price in diesel. We're feeling that impact, and we don't need rainwater making machines of those Louis Bruni days. We had shakeup in the county judge's position, and it was a disaster.
Well, but let me again, going back to your both gentlemen's time served. One of the things that is I cautiously worry about is there seems to be a lockstep within the existing commissioner's court right now, and in support of Jerry. It seems like they're all kind of on the same. Is that not dangerous to a degree? I mean, are we basically saying, okay, you 5 people are going to do whatever you want. There's not going to be a dissension. Nobody's going to go against it. Is that not a valid concern?
I would say no, and here's why. I'll give you an example. UISD. You have one board member right now who's in there calling everybody a crook, everybody incompetent, everyone should be fired. How much will she accomplish for her district when the other 5 votes are going to say, we're not going to support you in anything. You make a motion, we won't even second it. So what's going to happen in the county, if CY were to become judge, the other commissioners aren't going to be willing to work with him when he's just basically called them all incompetent and crooked and everything else. Why would I work with you? Rather have somebody who goes in and says, hey, let me look at this. I'm going to.
But as a constituent, Gene, yeah. I mean, now you're saying, okay, whatever you guys decide is going to go. And you can make your own deals, and nobody's going to be watching to protect the taxpayer or the county, population. Is that not a concern?
I disagree. I think the community continues to watch and be, mindful of what they're doing. You still get an opportunity to go to the podium and say, hey guys, I don't like what you're doing. And if in the case of someone like the commissioners, if you don't like their policies, vote them out. They had opportunities to do that. They didn't. The 2 commissioners that are there now got reelected in their primaries, and they don't have Republican opponents, so they're in. Yeah. So if community really wanted change in that fashion, they would have voted those 2 folks out as well.
So you don't subscribe to the notion that at least we need one crazy person out there, if for nothing, just to...
There's a way to be crazy and do it right.
I understand, but you still need some sort of dissension.
Absolutely, but
right. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, there seems to be none.
Well, I would think.
It seems like we're writing a blank check.
I wouldn't go that far. I think
Jerry's going to give them the dissension that they need. I think he's going to wake them up and say, look, guys, we need to think about this differently. We've been doing this way, but do it in a professional, well thought out, statesman-like manner versus going in there and just blowing the place up. That's what I think.
And I think internally within Commissioner's Court there is some dissension. Ricky Jaime is. I know he's new to the Commissioner's Court. I mean, he's been there for a full term, but he has been bringing forward and bringing out a lot of things diplomatically, effectively, that is not that kind of go with the flow mindset that the Commissioner's Court as a whole is known for. And I don't think that CY possesses the tactical personal skills to be able to navigate bringing forward a vision, being a disruptor and bringing forward a vision to turn things around or make them go differently. And so anyway, one of the things that I did want us to talk about is how I don't think any of them really delivered any sort of meaningful vision, not only in the campaign in general, but in this forum. Like, I didn't hear anybody talking about Bridge 4-5, which is a really big deal. Bridge 4-5, if the county's able to do it in between El Cenizo and Rio Bravo, has the potential to provide thousands of decent jobs. And turn that very poverty-stricken area around. It also has the potential to have a lot of that Mines Road traffic and that those all that diesel fuel to exhaust, if you will, to reroute that and get that traffic flowing. It has the ability to provide an income stream to the county that, in combination perhaps with a hospital district, can provide a children's hospital access to affordable health care.
None of that was talked about.
Which provides really good. None of that was covered.
Yeah.
And so Gene always quotes scripture so appropriately, and I butcher it. I'm going to let you do it. But the one where, lest you perish.
Right. My people perish for a lack of vision.
And that's us. That's us. And what you saw on this forum and in this campaign in general was that lack of vision.
Well, yeah. So again, to the point of here we go again.
Yeah.
Mamma mia.
To some degree, but again, I always go back to the fact that all these folks that are
sometimes things do need to be blown up.
In some cases, yes, but there's a right way to do it.
Yeah, tactically.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you a great example. And I always go back to that. Georgia knows that I'm uber proud of North Central Park. Always have been. You know, there's no linear park before that. That there is no detention pond being used for active recreation in the city of Laredo before that. It was a paradigm shift. And the fights I went through with staff over being able to use this. Oh, you can't do that. That's not, we shouldn't be putting recreation in detention ponds. All these other things that we went through.
That other cities have been doing for years.
Years and years. Chicago, one of their best parks, the one that's in About Last Night, that particular park, they're playing softball.
The original About Last Night?
Yeah, the original About Last Night. Go up the road, you go to Olmos Park, Olmos Basin. So getting people to change the way they think, disrupting their thought processes, having that paradigm shift can be done professionally, politely, without going in there and calling everybody crooks or incompetent, everything else. There's a way to do that. And I think that George and I and others that have gone on council, others that I've seen at the Commissioner's Court, have successfully done that. I don't think we need that type of a disruption at the Commissioner's Court. There's a way to pivot and go in a better direction.
Gentlemen, I want to talk a little bit about some of the items that were mentioned not last night at the forum, and these had been brought up through social media. So we're going to run sound bites from each of the candidates on these issues. So I want to start first with the comment that was made on the $25,000 Trump donation from CY, and then ask you if you think the response from both of them, how it fared, and what your opinion is on that. So let's go ahead and roll that one first.
Yeah, the President of the United States said, my opponent donated $25,000 to, and by that put us in the situation that we are in, getting a border wall and having buoys in the river and having the financial crisis that we are seeing. So,
but ultimately, what kind of leadership would you have if you didn't have somebody that could talk and work on both sides of the aisle? Our current Senator Judith Saffirini, her son has donated over $700,000 to Greg Abbott, who happens to be a Republican, who's donated millions of dollars to the president. So guess what, guys? That's the environment we live in. That's the way we need to work. Everybody knows it.
Okay, so the comments made from both of the candidates, CY is saying it's bipartisanship, and of course Jerry is saying, by contributing to President Trump, you're bringing down these issues or you're supporting the issues that have negatively affected us. What are your thoughts on that?
Hey, if you're contributing to the other party these days, you're viewed as either a dino or a rhino. If I give money to a Democrat, vote in the Democrat primary, I'm considered a rhino. If I going the other way, you're considered a dino. It is about bipartisanship. I think there's some measure of that that's good. But if you're going to run in this party and you're going to hold their flag, you're going to be the standard bearer, the highest elected official in your county, you should not be giving money to Republicans or vice versa.
Or switch parties in the middle of your
you can be red pilled. I think there's a point where someone recognizes that the party no longer fits them, or the party's moved away from them. I think in that particular instance, I support that decision, because you got to a point where he said, I can no longer support the policies of this particular party that I'm with. But what I find rich is, we need to work with everybody, yet he attacks one of the most respected, one of the most decorated, dedicated public servants we have in Senator Zaffirini. And now he wants to talk about bipartisanship and work. That's where it fell flat for me.
Got it.
I think it's all noise and no signal. I mean, I just think it's a little cheap parlor trick. I mean, we can get critical about who donated to who, but at the expense of not driving down on the issues that matter. Like, where was the conversation about water? Where is and CY, to his credit, touched on it considerably more than Jerry did, but do you trust CY to be able to have the technical know-how?
It's not up to him to have the technical know-how.
I'm sorry, the political know-how to navigate putting all the right people in place that do have the technical know-how to make something as complicated as water actually happen. And I mean, do you want a delusional person talking about it, or a steady hand who's not really looking at it as your next county judge? I think the safer bet is to go with Jerry, and to hope that his greater angels and the people around him if elected county judge, can steer him and the county towards a meaningful emergency water source.
Speaking about steering, you talked about donations and who donates to who or whatever. You, again, gentlemen, both have served in public office. I don't know who donated to your campaigns when you were running for office. Does that matter? Do you, when somebody donates to the campaign, do you look at them differently when time comes to make a decision on a permit or on a vote of some sort? Does that, I mean, I'm being naive in asking the question because I think the answer has got to be yes. I don't think you can tell me otherwise. Can you tell me that, no, I don't know, somebody gave me $10,000, but when the issue came up, I voted against it. Does that happen?
The answer is yes. Psychologically, and if you read all the data on campaign finance, donations, and the effect that it has, like psychologically, there is this human component that says, oh, okay, you helped me get elected, I should help you back, right?
Right.
And in between there's this threshold of, hey, like what you're asking for is bananas, dude.
Or
like,
it's illegal.
Yeah,
or
like
whatever.
no, like thanks for your help, but you leave. And so, donations and the way we finance campaigns is why this country is in the sad state that it's in today.
Agreed.
Because as a country, unfortunately, we worship money instead of worshiping God or a better place here in our hometown. But yes.
So is that a danger
does
that somebody may not be getting, somebody's getting more donations than the other person?
Well, okay, but is somebody getting a bunch of grassroots donations? In our campaign, we had campaign donations capped at a certain amount.
Right.
We sent some checks back. We're like, no, thanks. So there is where the mettle of the candidate becomes tested, and it's imperfect in almost every way, the way we do it.
I hear you.
And it's human nature. I mean, you help me, I help you is been known throughout the ages. I mean, we help our friends, we help our families. But when we talk about it in terms of politics, the threshold is ethical. At what point what you're asking me becomes either illegal or unethical or perceived unethical, right? Even the perception of that.
Right.
So when we're taking donations in our campaigns, we always said, there is no string attached to this donation. There may be a time when you need my help on something, and if it makes sense for the community for us to do it, and it's a good thing to do, we'll do it. But if you ask me for something that it violates my principles or ethics or the law, the answer is going to be no. And if this donation thinks it gets you beyond
If that's what
that,
you're thinking,
then you need to take this back.
You need to take this money back.
You need to take this back. We can't have it.
Wow. I want to talk another item that it came out in their closing remarks, but we want to go ahead and listen to what both of them said with their closing pitch.
We need a children's hospital like yesterday. We need people that can help in mental health. We need to have people that we can take care of. I mean, you don't know why you're voting for Jerry. You're told to vote for Jerry. That's a big difference. I'm offering you guys an opportunity. I'm offering to give you freedom. Freedom to do what you want. Freedom of expression. You will come to my court and you will see an open door. You'll see a friendly smile and you'll see somebody that cares about all of us.
I ask you to look past all the politics and past the noise, and I ask you to look at the record. Look who's been there. Look who's actually served on the front lines of county government and made a difference successfully. Look who has worked with people, who has built relationships, and who has helped move this county forward. I want you to look at who understands the struggles that working families face every single day. Not because some consultant told them about it, but because he actually lives them.
So Jerry doing a comparison of lifestyle, CY talking about some of the things that we need here, like Children's Hospital, mental health, things like that. So very different closing remarks. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, we need a children's hospital. We need a hospital district. That's going to be an additional tax, and it will be worth it. El Paso did a children's hospital, and it created the campus, this giant, health campus. That created a medical school was born from it. Like all sorts of really good things, jobs were generated from access to affordable health care through that hospital district. Do I think CY has the skills and the game plan to make that happen? I mean, I've heard that Gordy Loca was going to be the new press secretary, Poncho Caso was going to replace Leroy Medford, and that they were going to find some quack lawyer to replace Nathan Bratton, and I don't see a children's hospital happening with that lack of expertise coming to the county. And then and I guess to Jerry, he lives down the street from me. I can say this: he drives the speed limit. He stops at the stop sign. He's he's worked. He didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth, and he's imperfect. But which one is less imperfect is not up for debate. The one that's less imperfect is.
Would you consider
Jerry.
the county judge a more direct correlation to the city manager than the city mayor?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
So Jerry was trying to become the city manager, and you were opposed to him being the city manager.
Yes.
What makes him qualified to be a county judge?
I don't know, but he's not as less qualified as CY.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just asking a question because I remember that one.
Trying to keep it real here.
And had I been on the council, I would have voted for Jerry as my city manager.
Really?
Financial background. He's got the financial background that was needed to navigate the city through some of these shark-infested waters. Having been a former commissioner, he knows the politics and the policies and the way to pass ordinances and/or laws. His relationship with the community. That's one of the things that is sorely lacking at the city management's office today. Being able to go out to the community and talk to the community, engage with the community, let them see the transparency of what you're doing. I think that would have been great for the city, and I would have certainly selected him to be city manager. Why I think he should be county judge? Look, experience is key. This is not a place where you can go in and just all of a sudden be a disruptor and then not know how to fix everything. At least Jerry can keep the boat straight while they begin to discuss and disrupt some of the things that they've been doing. It's great that you point out that we need a children's hospital, but you didn't put a solution behind it and how we're going to do this. Maverick County's got one. They created a hospital district. They have a county hospital. Follow their model.
But we've needed these things, Gene,
Absolutely.
for many, 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 many years.
And that's why Jerry probably should have stayed in office longer, and George and I and a couple others who have experience and have vision.
Then you guys,
have vision for these things, shouldn't
I mean,
Well,
you're not making me very happy here.
Well, we shouldn't be happy.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be happy.
I don't think we should be happy.
And I think if you wanted to look back at this moment in time, the hindsight here is that there are a lot of really good people that stayed home and didn't put their names in the hat when they should have. Because this position was for the taking. This one was for the taking.
Yeah.
And what we got was a lot of recycled politicos that came out to give it a shot. And the machine and the development community, they shifted towards Jerry, and then you have this so-called disruptor who's not a real alternative. And so I always come back to this: like, we need more ladies in office.
Mindy Casa for judge.
Yes, right here. Honestly, I mean.
Then I can't call out any.
No, but it's overrated.
Call out people.
It's so calling people out is just so overrated. We need the doers, and the women in our lives tend to be the ones that get it done and get it done right.
Well, we
gotta do this
appreciate that.
again.
On behalf of all women, I appreciate that. We appreciate that. Gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking around. We appreciate it and your time that you spent with us today. We want to remind everybody, early voting does start tomorrow. On Monday, goes all the way until Friday. Election day is May 26th. Let your voice be heard and go out and vote. That's it for us. We'll see you next week for another episode of Beyond the Headlines.
Adios.